the people. It must not be a capitalist system, but we don't want to exploit anybody. We don't want to be exploited, and we don't want to exploit anybody.
Ain't nobody gonna do it for us. There's nobody outside of yourself, nobody outside of ourselves that's going to do this work.
Well, how do you intend to gain possession of this land that you want, and how do you intend to get there?
It's a contribution that the black man made in this country, which amounts to 310 years of slave labor, for which we have never been given a dime or a cent, places a burden upon the American white man today, for which the government should pay. Since we cannot live in peace together, mixed up on this continent, the alternative to that solution is to divide a separate part of this country into which our people can migrate, and in which the government again should supply us with the machinery and the tools necessary to establish our own independent society and our own independent country. And in this way, it will be creating a solution that the black man himself, our people, ourselves, can bring about if we have that capability. And for your clarification, because this has been brought up, some people say, well, why should the government do this? If this government can send billions of dollars to communist countries like Poland and Yugoslavia, and to neutralist countries in Asia and Africa who have never made any contribution whatsoever to the sum net worth of this economy and country, and at the same time, this government feels that it is too much to set about something real to solve the problem for the slaves who made a greater contribution even than your people did, why the government doesn't even deserve to continue to function as a government.
What land is available that's not already possessed by others?
When you came to this country, the land was inhabited by the Indians, and you didn't have any problem then.
Free the land, battle cry in our freedom call. Political prisoners in the system, we say free them all. You hear the call, haters never wanna see you ball. But I'm a freedom fighter, I just wanna see them fall. Standing tall, cause we trapped in the system, they slapped us in prison. Just a part of capitalism. I'm a revolutionary, I adapt to the system. I ain't playing with y'all haters, I come strapped when I kick them.
Black fist in the air as we walk through the door. Representing Malcolm X and Assata Shakur. Queen Mother Moore, Batula, Shakur. Fight to free the land is what we doing it for. The struggle, the leader, for Huey, for Mia, Garvey Fred Hampton, General Hamisha, Grandmaster Teacher. He's blasting y'all, you're gonna feel it. The voices of New Africa.
Free the land.
These are voices of New Africa.
Free the land.
These are voices of New Africa.
Free the land.
These are voices of New Africa.
Free the land.
These are voices of New Africa.
Free the land.
These are voices of New Africa.
Free the land.
These are voices of New Africa.
Free the land.
These are voices of New Africa.
Free the land.
These are voices of New Africa.
Free the land.
We got to have thinkers that are going to direct us in terms of how we're going to be able to achieve the goal of liberation throughout the world. We have the same problem. That is neo-colonialism. We have no control over any area in which we live. Matter of fact, we have been diminished, and all of those things have happened under the American system of capitalism. That's why we're saying we want to break away and create our own, and have our own self-government, and have our own control over our lives.
You're listening to the Voices of New Afrika, where we educate the uneducated and re-educate the miseducated. Free the land.
I want to welcome everybody to the Voices of New Afrika, the show that's dedicated to the not only the liberation of new African people, but we educate the uneducated and re-educate the miseducated. I'm your host, Brother Prophecy. We're actually simultaneously going broadcasting on our radio show. What station are we broadcasting on? Make sure the mic is right.
Yeah, AM 1600, and that's in Lakeland, Memphis. AM 730 out of West Memphis, Arkansas, and 93.3 FM out of Millington, Tennessee. So all of the Western Tennessee area and Northern Mississippi as well.
Definitely. So that's what's up. So you know what? We're gonna jump right into the show because we like to jump in to kind of talk about current events and things that's been going on all over the world. On the radio, we've been talking about land. Let's jump in and see what's going on with this segment called Around the World.
Live from Ida B. Wells City, spanning from Africa, Asia, all the way Ida B. Wells City, spanning from Africa, Asia, all the way to the United States of America. This is Around the World in Black again. It's the news, y'all, what's going on? It's the news, y'all, what's going on? It's the news, y'all, what's going on? It's the news, y'all, what's going on?
Everything up with our social media broadcast and the live radio. But yeah, Around the World in Black again. So we've been talking about this conflict was going on in Palestine, really is genocide committed. And really, I want to start out. There was this meeting in Chicago where they were trying to vote. Where actually they passed a resolution to condemn Hamas. And it was real, right? It was a protest within there that almost broke out into a riot. And it was a comment that was made from, I guess, a community activist in Chicago. And he said some really interesting things. And I want to play that. Play that clip for me if you can, Engineer Vicaro.
Having us to provide our comment, I would like to add my voice to the chorus here today in opposition to this ridiculous resolution. At a time when the rest of the world is condemning Israel for committing war crime after war crime, Chicago is fiddling around on whether to condemn Hamas. By doing so, Chicago will be doing its part in enabling the genocide of Palestinians. And this resolution acts like it's on the side of innocent civilians. So in that case, I'd like to add, are you considering a resolution condemning Israel for using white phosphorus against the civilian population? Are you considering condemning Israel for its planned war crime of forced removal of 1 million Palestinians from northern Gaza? Are you going to condemn them for cutting off food, water, and electricity to Gaza? Another war crime called collective punishment. Did it ever cross your mind to condemn Israel when they assassinated Palestinian journalist Shireen Abu Akleh in broad daylight, or when they brutalized the people carrying her coffin peacefully, or when Israeli snipers killed innocent peaceful protesters throughout the March of Return? Did the people in office before you ever consider condemning Israel at any point? Since its inception, when it crams a country full of people into a 60-mile corner of their own country, creating the largest concentration camp in history, the largest open-air prison in the world? The answer is a resounding no. You never considered it, nor did your ancestors. But unfortunately for you, times have changed. The world is increasingly aware of the crimes of Israel and increasingly aware of the framework of politicians who enable their continued apartheid by resolutions such as these. And in a city like Chicago, with the majority of black and brown people who have experienced the apartheid-like conditions of oppression in the United States, a generation of young people have emerged who understand immediately that we have everything in common with the Palestinian people and nothing in common with the brutal Zionists under who they suffer. A generation of people who are not surprised when we find out that our politicians, up to our president, spread lies about 40 babies being beheaded in order to rationalize genocide. Only surprised that they're forced to walk those lies back, but of course the damage is done. People are still spewing the debunked lies about rape and massacre of babies, even here in this very meeting, when actually there is endless evidence of Israel having killed over 500 babies in the last 48 hours alone. We dropped more bombs in 24 hours than the U.S. dropped on Afghanistan in 1 year. And finally, let it be known that condemning the attack as the actions of some fringe group misses the point of what's going on. The attacks were carried out by a broad coalition of groups from every section of Palestinian society, not just Hamas. That coalition represents a people determined to attain freedom at any cost, and they have arrived at this point in the face of a broad coalition of right-wing Zionists and their supporters who started meeting with a prayer calling for their attempt at freedom, a second Holocaust, who are so silent you can hear a rat piss on cotton when innocent, peaceful Palestinians are annihilated day in and day out like the Native Americans of this country. If it were another time, these same people would be condemning Africans for rebelling against their slave masters and slavery, such as Nat Turner or in the Haitian Revolution. Thank you. Right on.
Yeah, that's the people. So yeah, that was a resolution. And ironically, they actually did pass the resolution to condemn Hamas. But like I said, the brother, to me, he actually echoed a lot of things that we have been saying over the last few weeks. So yeah, just wanted to open it up. And what do y'all think about that particular comment? Was he off base? Was he right on? What?
Okay, so here we got to understand, and one of the things that of the question of genocide. See, the Israelis, the Zionists, who call themselves Jews, because we're not talking about a religion, we're talking about a political movement. Have tried to make it seem like genocide was just geared to what they call the Holocaust. It's true that the genocide was coined as a phrase after the so-called Holocaust in Europe, in which genocide means that you want to kill off the whole people. You want to eliminate. And what Israel has done has turned this to be backwards. In other words, where they're going to eliminate the Palestinians. This is what we talked about earlier, the land. The land is Palestine. Israel is a part of the land called Palestine. What the so-called illegal state of Israel is a part. Now, what the brother did in Chicago was to echo what the whole world recognized, that Israel is a creation of the United States government. It's a replica of the United States government. I used to say the tail is wagging the dog. The tail is a part of the dog. And so the United States and the other so-called West are part of a genocidal campaign to keep people from gaining control over their land. Even their instrument, the UN, has been attacked because it has asked for a ceasefire, to keep Israel from killing off the people in Gaza. And so when we look at that whole situation, we can see that what genocide has been perpetuated. The latest thing that's happened is that they have cut off the internet, have cut off all the communication, so that people will not be able to see how they're perpetuating this genocide anymore, because social media has allowed the world to see just what Israel is doing, just what Netanyahu and others are doing. And the United States government is a full partner in the genocide of the Palestinian people, is a full partner in the military. As a matter of fact, one of the senators in the U.S. Senate has called for support for this so that they can make more money making weapons, giving weapons to Israel, giving weapons to other countries who they want to maintain control over. And once we look at that, and the people, once we get that message to the people, the message that brother gave in Chicago, that message, once we'll see what the reaction of the people are. The people will be getting the proper understanding of what's going on, because a lot of our people don't have access to the information. And so when we look at this whole thing of Israel has become a tourist, attraction, and the churches, even black churches, take their congregation and everything over, to the so-called Holy Land of Israel, and right on top of the Palestinians, right on top of these people who are not able to move freely in their own land that's been so-called designated to them. These are reservations. These are open air prisons. That's what a reservation is, an open air prison. And so when we look at that, the world has been saying for many years that Zionism is racism. That's the philosophy. That's a political philosophy of the state of Israel. Zionism is racism, and they've done everything they possibly can to undermine the independence of all the nations around it, and has grabbed control of territory and continues to grab control out of the West Bank, creating kibbutzes, so-called settlements, even as we're speaking today. And even if we look at it, they're now attacking the people on the West Bank. Over 100 people have been killed on the West Bank in the last few days. And once we began to look at that, and our people began to see that, to understand that this is what it is, because we are under the genocide right here right here in the United States, we have been restricted to the point of where this genocide. We got to understand it's a document called "We Charge Genocide" that spells out all the terms of what genocide is.
You know what? But before we get into that, let's just proceed with the show, because that is an important thing that you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times the term genocide is thrown around. So let's just don't go and do it official. Let's jump into the term of the day.
From capitalism, imperialism, dialectical, historical materialism. This is the New African Term of the Week.
So the New African Term of the Week is, as Grandmaster Teacher was talking about, genocide. So, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but, since we just jumping right into it, let's go and jump into it properly. So continue. What is genocide, as you was like saying?
Genocide is a total elimination, the attempt to totally eliminate a population, to do everything it can to kill off, ultimately to kill off the population of the land, because you want to control their land, because you want to be in charge of their lives. And so in the document we charge genocide, one of the things genocide is the attempt to eliminate the population by birth control. That is sterilization, either sterilization or forced abortions as a result, because the people have been impoverished, and so that you can maintain the population to not be able to grow, not to be able to develop, not to be able to do the things that would be necessary to gain control over their livelihoods and their land. And so we see that, you see that what happened in terms of when I was talking about Israel, the Gaza Strip, to create a situation, and we can do the like thing in South Africa. They limited the people, the Zulus and other people, to particular arid land where they could not grow their food, that could not develop, could not have any control over any of their livelihoods or anything on that nation. And the Gaza Strip, where you got 2 million, 2.3, 2.4 million on a strip of land, and you have not allowed them to be able to do commerce or do anything, and you have a pass, but they have that allows maybe 10% of people that you need to work for you, talking about Israel, to come across. In South Africa, they had to have a pass to move from different areas that they were located, that were called Bantustan. In other words, where you doing control, and the population, the Zionist population of Israel is doing everything they can. We got the West Bank and Gaza Strip as open air prison or reservation. And inside of Israel, they have the population of East Jerusalem, the Palestinian population, restricted to be able, to not to be able to move around and do the thing that normal people would be able to do inside of a so-called democracy. And this whole thing that they're talking about is under the guise of democracy, so that the state of Israel or the United States, in our case, it can continue to do the exploitation of the resources of the people and to control the movement of the people to the extent that we're not able to govern ourselves. And so genocide is a complete attempt to completely, ultimately annihilate a population, and that's what the policies of genocide is designed to do.
Definitely. It just, so we ain't making up. I give you the mainstream definition of it. The mainstream definition, straight from Google. It says the deliberate killing in large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. So when you think about that, and you talked about us, what happened to African people in America is genocide. Under the definition, genocide several times, because large numbers of us have been murdered, time and time and time and time again, for the purpose of basically destroying us. That happened in other words, you can say that happened in Memphis, Tennessee, 1866. What they call it the race riots over down there in South Memphis. It wasn't a race riots, it was a massacre because some African police officers stood up against the power structure and caused them to behave in a chaotic way, where the white power structure shot into the crowd and accidentally shot one of themselves. And it made them so angry that they decided to try to kill everybody in South Memphis. And these type of things happen over and over and over and over again, all through these United States of America. So genocide has happened to us. But real quick, I want to do a couple of announcements, because we got some people who have chimed in, specifically Melly Queen. Melly Queen says, Free the Land, comrade and family, how y'all doing today? Doing great, Queen. Thank y'all for joining us at the New African Broadcast Association. Definitely. We are getting ready for the Metropolitan Conference at the New African Village at 1225 Valentine Avenue, 38107, 3 o'clock p.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. Come check us out and meet your candidates out of the Ida B. Webb district. Learn more about the PGRNA and the New African Elections and Fellowship. Free the Land. That's happening today at 3 o'clock. So, if y'all out there by the New African Village, just come on down to the African Village. At 1225 Valentine Avenue, 3 o'clock to 5. So there'll be refreshments. Y'all gonna come by? I'm thinking I'm gonna come by too.
Yeah. That's right there in North Memphis. Yeah,
Yeah. So we'll be in the house and we'll be doing our thing. Also, New African election our next weekend, November 3rd through 5th, 2023. Our election polls will be at Smooth Living at 1263 Winchester Road, 38116 on November 3rd, 2023, 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And November 4th, it will be from 12 to 6 at the New African Village, 38107, November 5th, 12 o'clock to 5 p.m. Let your New African vote really count. Support the building of our New African nation. So make sure y'all be in the house for that next week. And let me see what else going on. Save the date, of course. March 29th through 31st, 2023, New African Nation Day in Columbus, Georgia. John Henry Clark District. Come out and celebrate with us. And if you've never been to New African Day, you got to come on down. We have us a good old time. Yes, we do. Yeah, no doubt. So thank everybody for checking in. And make sure if y'all listening with us right now, drop a line. Let us know who you are so we can converse with you, have a back and forth. Right now, Grandmaster Teacher was talking about genocide and what the real definition of genocide, and how genocide is not only being committed right now over there in Palestine, but it's actually been committed on us. There's been a global genocide on indigenous people, so they can clear out the land, so they can steal and rob the earth of the natural resources that the planet has to offer, so they can continue to gain wealth and resources and power at our exploitation and expense. So genocide has been committed time and time again. And you was talking about we charge genocide. We're gonna jump into our main topic real shortly. But tell us about that document again. We charge genocide.
We charge genocide. In 1950, a group of Africans in America, under the leadership of W.E.B. Du Bois, put together a document called "We Charge Genocide," and it gives incidents of genocide in America, and so you can go to the library. Should be able to go to libraries to check it out, or it's probably still been what they call published. So and this was in 1950. It was given to the UN, the United Nations, and we know that these forces do not respect the UN. The UN was set up in the United States in 1945. After World War II, at the end of World War II in 1945, and the UN had been used to set up the illegal regime of Israel, and by allotting land for a homeland for Jews in Palestine. And so we know that the United States was the main partner in helping to create the state of Israel, and has been able to continue to maintain it, because Israel is the strongest military force in the Middle East, and is designed to control the politics of the Middle East and the economics of the Middle East, and keep the Arab nations divided to the point of where when there were wars, the United States military budget, which allowed $4 billion a year to Israel, even now as we speak, and they want to try to give 100 billion, 14 billion of this so-called 100 billion for war. When the Congress began to get itself together and vote on it. And so we got to begin to understand when they talk about the axis of evil, anytime they use that term axis of evil, we know who the axis of evil are, which is the West. The West is the axis of evil, because the people of Palestine and other people and the people of Lebanon and the people are struggling to maintain control over their land. And the people of Palestine have been denied their land. 70% of Palestinians have been locked out of Palestine completely. And they are refugees all around the world and 70% of the population that used to live in Palestine have been locked out by the Israeli invasion. The Israeli taken over of territory, and the UN has been saying that Israel should give back the land to the Palestinians that it took in 1967, 56 years ago. And this is the thing that we got to really begin to understand, the question of land. That question, that's a crucial question that we must understand as a people, because we are in the same condition, and we are going to have to break out to gain control over our own territories and our own resources, and the axis of evil, that is United States, Britain, Canada, Australia, just name the white nations, are controlling 85% or more of the resources of the world. And so, and we understand that they got, troops in the United States, got bases all throughout the Arab countries, such as Qatar, such as Saudi Arabia, and they have ships waiting on to create a wider war so that they can gain greater control over the Palestinian population and the other populations that are struggling to gain control of their land.
Yeah, there's a lot of cases. European and Western powers will use something like this in order to justify aggression upon other people, so they can gain more power and they can gain more control over the world's resources and dominate. It just be a nice little smooth justification to commit atrocities and genocide against other people, get under the whole umbrella of justification of fighting terrorism. Like they say, we're fighting terrorism with Hamas, which leads us to our main topic today, because we want to talk about what's the real face of terrorism. What is terrorism really? Because in that clip with the brother who was talking about Israel and the atrocities that they have done, that was actually in a meeting that was voting on a resolution to condemn Hamas for terrorist acts. But like the question is, who are the real terrorism? What is terrorism really? You know, and I'm gonna open that back up to you, Grandmaster Teacher.
Okay, so terrorism. So it's a tool by which people use to gain control over certain resources or whatever. But the real when we talk about terrorism, what we have, Hamas is not the terrorist. Israel is the terrorist. United States is the terrorist because Hamas only exists because they have terrorized the population of Palestinians inside of Palestine, in Gaza Strip, and in the West Bank. They have been completely and totally upon the terror of the Israeli government and the United States. And once we've got to understand that who are the real terrorists are the ones that got all the weapons. You know, if we look at Hamas as an organization, Hamas, and look at the people of Gaza Strip, they can't match the weapons that Israel have been provided for by the United States and by the Western European nations. So we got to look at that and understand that Israel was created as a terrorist state. Matter of fact, the people who created Israel the Zionists had to terrorize Britain in order to get Britain to keep its so-called commitment to them to allow the Jews to have a homeland. And so they assassinated the British ambassador in 1947, and Britain ran out of and left Palestine, because Palestine was under the colonial administration of Britain, of so-called England. And so we see that, and the United States stepped right in, just like the United States stepped in after the French were defeated by the Vietnamese. So United States is really the basis of terrorism against any country that it does not want to see that the people have its own power, and do it under the name of democracy, and which we always talk about here. Democracy is hypocrisy, and the only people that have democracy are the rich and the super rich among themselves, but they have fooled the population of Palestine. I'm talking about even in Israel, and the people of the United States into thinking that they are going to war for democracy. They go to war to take over other people's country and to overthrow the power that is seeking to adjust the resources to give to the people. That's why we don't have Gaddafi anymore. That's why we don't have Saddam Hussein anymore. That's why we don't have, and now they're right now trying to eliminate Hamas. Now, we as a people who are looking for liberation, we support Hamas in their struggle to attain independence for the Palestinian people, and that does not mean that we are like followers of Hamas or whatever, because we know that it got to be a socialist system that has to be set up. And we learn from Iran, even though we support Iran in its independence. But when we first supported Iran, the students of Iran were basically rebelling against the Shah, and the Shah was taken out. But the government was given over to some religious mullahs and all that. And there's a lot of problems in those places, in those states. But they have to be solved by those states, by the people, by the forces and revolutionary forces in those states. And we support all those revolutionary forces that are looking for true liberation and who understand that capitalism must be defeated, because capitalism has done everything to create the terror conditions
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's important to always understand that we stand in solidarity with all oppressed peoples, and we support all the efforts of oppressed people to fight against the oppressor. And that's what we have to be clear about it. The mainstream narrative will sit up here and say, "Oh, well, when they're not just completely condemning the oppressed. They're not completely condemning the brutalized, the victims, and saying that the victims are the cause of the problem. When they're not doing that, when they're trying to give the appearance of being balanced, they'll say, well, we just don't want death anyway. We don't want anybody to die. We don't want any of, we want it, because there is wrong parts on both sides. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. We don't side with the oppressor. We don't side with the colonizer. We don't side with the slave master. We don't do that. Period. We stand in solidarity with the people who are standing up against oppression, against genocide, against murder. We're standing on that side. You never hear people, and I said this last week, you never heard anybody say, when they talk about Hitler and what Hitler did with to the so-called Jews, you never say, well, there were bad people on both sides. That's what Donald Trump tried to do when their white supremacists ran over them people in their thing. He said, well, there was bad people on both sides, and he got slaughtered for that. Well, you get slaughtered for this too, because you don't side with the colonizer. You don't side with the oppressor. You don't side with individuals who are committing genocide. And it's the reality is, if you had mass media 200 years ago, when you looked at Nat Turner's rebellion, and you saw the people that Nat Turner killed, if you focus on that, then you could be, oh, that's terrible. Oh my God. Oh, look at this, the terror of it. But if you ignore the 200 years of slavery, brutality, murder, lynchings, raping, separation of family members, if you ignore all of that, then what Nat Turner did look terrible. But when you put that in context of this is what he's fighting against, you'd be like, hell, he ain't killing enough. He ain't go ahead. He just getting started, because compared to the damage that Israel has done to the Palestinian people, compared to the carnage, to the murder, to the genocide, the attack that Hamas did was very little. It's very little. And I'm not here to undermine people's lives, because when people lose their lives, it's devastating. But you can't sit and try to make the whole world boo-hoo for the retaliation of the oppression, and then not deal with the oppression. You got to deal with the oppressor. You got to deal with the oppression. You got to deal with all of that first. How many people out there, because it was just a mass shooting in Maine last couple of days, and he killed like 18 people, shot a whole lot more. This guy was a military guy, a gun supervisor, something like that. In other words, he knew what he was doing. He was very effective in killing people. But they recently found him dead. Now, how many people are saying up there, oh my God, this is tragedy, he died? You ain't saying that. You saying, ooh, I'm glad this over with. I'm glad they got rid of this guy, because he is committing murder on innocent people. So they ain't crying for them, even though, I'm pretty sure for his family member, that was pretty hard. So my whole point is, we don't sit, and we're going to have to wrap up the radio portion. I'm not really sure how we're going to do this, because it's all connected now, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to wrap that up in a little bit. But my whole point is, when you're looking at terrorism, since this is what we're causing, the mainstream media is using this whole term terrorism as propaganda to villainize oppressed people as they try to fight back. Because when you see oppressed people going up against a powerful colonizer, in this case, Israel, which is the second most powerful military in the world, which has the backing of the number one most powerful military in the world, when you see them attacking them, in many cases, they got to reach for desperate means to try to just save themselves. That's how you can get somebody or something like a suicide bomb. Just think about that. What kind of conditions do you have to be in order to strap a bomb on yourself and kill yourself in order to try to gain some kind of military victory against an oppressive force? What kind of situation you got to be in? What kind of level of desperation you got to be in to go to that level? Because you're trying to gain freedom. You know you ain't getting freedom. You about to die, but you're trying to gain freedom for your people. You're trying to gain freedom for your children.
Extreme measures.
Extreme measures. You know what I'm saying? Because extreme conditions require extreme measures. And if you don't analyze and study the extreme conditions that the people are under, then you are vulnerable to the type of ridiculous propaganda. But the reality is the world is waking up. The world is waking up. All over the world, you're seeing people condemn what's going on. So Joe Biden and all of them going with the okie doke, hey, you get what you get because you are siding on the side of the genocide. And I'm gonna yield on that because you know what, we gotta go and wrap it up right now. But stay tuned, because we're going to also we're gonna continue this conversation for a little while. So
let me just say this before we go. Since
now we gotta go because we don't want gospel music coming on.
No, we know that.
I'm serious. We don't want gospel music coming on. We got to do it now.
Look, you're listening to AM 1600 West Memphis, Lakeland, Memphis, AM 730, West Memphis, Arkansas, and 93.3 FM Millington. Yeah, that don't come.
This is dedicated to the brothers and sisters trapped behind enemy lines. For those of us locked down in the belly of the beast of the prison concentration camps in America. This was for you, friends. Stay strong.
Yes. We're gonna give a shout out to all our POWs. Right there, Atiba. Let's give a shout out to Atiba.
Brother Tank, Brother Tank, Daima, while we the people's champ, and everybody out there who are within the prison system holding it down. I talked to Atiba a little while ago. We're gonna do some big things. Big shout out to Amir Abu Jamal, to the African family, Brother Poindexter, to Brother Abdul Shakur, and all of the brothers who are in the penitentiary holding it down, educating the people. Big shouts out to all of our elders in the community. If you listening to our social media, just type one of the elders' names. Of course, our grandmaster teacher for Dolly, Brother Eggpay out there, who probably proud of you always checking in. General Rico, General Machine, to Mama Hunt, yes, Mama Tony, Mama Scholarship Corps, and all of our elders, Mama Ayo
out of Haiti.
Yes, all the ancestors, all that have passed away, that have transitioned, that have given their lives so we can be here today. We want to say Ashe to you, and we'll continue to have you in our hearts as long as there is blood running through our veins. We will continue to fight, and we end this with our battle cry, and that is free the land, free the land, free the land.
Soon we'll find out who is the
Free the land. Any means necessary. I'm Brother Zumbi New Afrika.
Opiemi New Afrika.
And we represent the Harriet Tubman District on the eastern shore of Maryland. We're here at Nation Day 55 here in Charleston, South Carolina.
Enjoying it. Here to represent the Harriet Tubman District on the eastern shore. And just want to commemorate and celebrate the 55th year of the PGRNA.
Right on. Time to break it down. Hey, how y'all doing? I'm Tajwa Jasiri from Columbus, Georgia. I'm with the People's Party for Independence. Our organization, we're standing on 5 principles of defense, education, economics, politics, and culture. And in doing that, we think if we can control these 5 principles, then we'll be able to keep the community safe, clean, and organized. And in keeping the community safe, clean, and organized, we know that we need to own, operate, and control the community. And in doing so, we think 5 institutions will help us, and that's a grocery store, a school, a hospital, a bank, and a community center. We've already purchased a community center. Next, we're going to implement a grocery store for our people. So we can all come together and unite to fight against all the ills inside of our communities. We'll be able to free the land, we'll be able to govern ourselves, and we'll be able to put ourselves in a position to where we can have some wiggle room. We might not always be free, but we'll be free enough to where we can breathe. So that's what we're looking to do, to have survival programs in place pending revolution. And we want to work with everybody around the world, work with everybody within the republic, so that we can have some type of cohesion, some type of common unity to do what we need to do in order to put ourselves in a position to be what we need to be.
As young people, you have to develop a sense of courage, right? I like to say freedom ain't free.
Tear down this whole system, but
all right.
But y'all want to come in and join this whole conversation about terrorism?
Now it's mic on.
Oh, now his mic on. So we just gonna keep his mic on. You can go on back to yours. That's crazy.
All right. Okay, so I think you gave a great discussion as to what terrorism is and what it entails, because when we talk about to understand the terrorism terror is a tactic. It has no other purpose than to do the things that is necessary for people that's going to employ it. So when the people who are oppressed use terror, it's because it's called for to bring about a change in terms of, so that the enemy can understand that it cannot get away with terrorism. Terrorism, the Hamas was justified in doing what it was doing because Israel has been controlling Palestine since 1967, 56 years, the last 56 years, that have terrorized the people constantly on a daily basis ever since then. The United Nations and other nations of the world have been demanded that Israel return the land that it took over, that it occupies right now today. And Israel has refused to do that. Not only has Israel refused to do that, the Zionists of Israel have refused to do that, they have expanded into the West Bank. And they're continually expanding and creating what they call kibbutz, which is a settlement, process that they established as early as 1910 in Palestine for them to take over. And they have taken over the land of Palestine and have substituted the state of Israel. Instead of saying Palestine, they got the maps have been Palestine has been erased off the maps up until 1948. That land, that whole land, in which includes the Palestinian people of Gaza and West Bank and so-called the illegal state of Israel, was called Palestine for 1948, all the way up from thousands of years. It's been known as Palestine. So even when the Europeans went in to take over, Britain and France and the so-called Christians went over to take over what they call the Holy Land, it was still called Palestine. And so what we have to do is understand, when we talk about terrorism, that Hamas did not create, it was a reaction to the terrorism that has been perpetuated against the Palestinian people since 1967. And we can go back to say 1948, when Israel was first created by the United States government and under the guise of the United Nations. And now they are talking about, in other words, they don't want to even recognize that they have killed thousands and thousands and thousands. I think it's up to about 7,500, the last count, before they cut off all the communication inside of Gaza Strip. That over 7,500 people were killed and 15,000 wounded, which is opposed to so-called 1,400 Israelis that were supposedly killed during the Hamas raid into their own land, which is called Palestine. Now, I think that it's important that we began to see that, we had a Chicago meeting in which our people attended and called out this whole thing of talking about discrediting Hamas and not even talking about Israel and all the thousands of people that killed. And we know that over 9,000 bombs have been dropped right on that little small land. They have knocked off all the structures, and half of the 2 million people have no place to stay in the Gaza Strip. They told them to go south, and when they went south, they were bombing. They're still bombing in the south and killing people, killing children. 2/3 of the people killed are women and children, inside of Gaza. And the United States government, which is the biggest terrorist in the world, there's no greater terrorist than the United States government in terms of its army. Sent its army into Iraq illegally claiming that Saddam Hussein was trying to get had weapons of mass destruction, and they killed over 3 million Iraqis. And the same tactics that Israel is attempting to make into Gaza was used in Fallujah, which is in Iraq, in which they made the people flee the population so they can destroy the ISIS, which was the Islamic State that had taken over Iraq in the war, and so in order to eliminate ISIS, but they still have not eliminated ISIS. ISIS is still going strong in Syria and other places, and they think they're going to eliminate Hamas. No, but they're going to kill as many Palestinians as they possibly can, and this is what we've been calling. This is what is genocide.
Definitely. And I think it's important to understand the narrative, because you have individuals who you have a power structure that basically controls the narrative. They control the media. They control the propaganda that the masses are subject to. And because they do this, then they can paint individuals who are simply fighting up or standing up for themselves as being terrorists or being terrorist acts. They call individuals like the Black Panther Party, these are terrorism. These are terrorists. Any individual who stands up against their oppression are terrorists. And that's because they have the power to paint themselves as the heroes, as the good guy. And I think it's a saying that as long as the lion writes history, then the prey or the deer or whoever will always be the villains. And that's just the case. And that's what you see with our whole understanding of terrorism, or what terrorism is, or what we believe terrorism is. I want to go up to the Black Panther Party in Newark, Virginia chapter. How you doing? It said Black Power to you too, comrade. Good to see y'all checking in. Anybody out there listening, make sure y'all drop a line so we can communicate with y'all. And y'all let us know, you know what I'm saying? Who, in your opinion, who are the biggest terrorists? Because, as Grandmaster Teacher said, United Snakes of America are some of the biggest terrorists in history. When you look at terrorism, and the biggest and the worst forms of terrorism that we have are the state-sponsored terrorism. Black Wall Street, that was a terrorist act against our people. Rosewood, that was a terrorist act against our people. When you look at what happened in 2018 with the what they call it, the protest to return, when the Palestinian people were marching up to the gate trying to return to their homes in a peaceful protest, and the Israeli government shot them down. That happened in 2018. That wasn't 1948. That was 2018. So we've had the real face of terrorism has been oppressing us, has been brutalizing us for many decades, really centuries, because us in America, we have been the victims of a 400-year terrorism campaign ran on our people, and we're still victimized from it today. And it's from forms of, you can look at terrorism when you look at how they trying to poison us with the food, how they miseducate us. You know what I'm saying? You can say, hey, we've been terrorized on levels that you don't even think about, because it's all an attempt to neutralize us, to take us out, to destroy the Black nation right here in America. And that's what they said terrorism is. And I see the Black Panther Party, new Black Panther Party in Newark, Virginia chapter said the terrorists call people terrorists. Exactly. I'm agree with that 100%. And Comrade Kakai, you want to jump in here for a second? You gotta unmute yourself, comrade.
Yeah, the brother for Norfolk, Virginia. I'm very familiar with the Norfolk area, Hampton area. When we talk about a lot of the things that have gone on with our people here in the United States, we begin to understand that terror has been committed to us by the same people who control this land. And at some point, our people came together, realizing that we're going to have to get together, demand a portion of this country as our own, and stand strong as a nation of people and fight for that. Because they're not going to do anything that will for us that will benefit us. They're creating atrocities around the world, and black again in this country. And so there's no wonder why, when the brother said so eloquently in Chicago, the terror that has been committed over the years by the Israelis to the Palestinians, in their system, under their leadership, with all that was said against denouncing Hamas, they still went ahead and denounced Hamas. The whole point is, we shouldn't expect anything less from these Europeans over here. We should begin to put our first foot forward and our best foot forward to establishing our own independent sovereign nation, recognizing and understanding who we're dealing with. The same people that has committed havoc to black people around the world are the same people here, are the same people in Israel, are the same people in Europe, and they all have benefited from the exploitation and oppression of people all around the world, including taking their land and claiming it that it's their own. And it's no wonder why we should not be confused or misled when any one of us want to support people who are fighting for their own land, who are fighting for their existence, because these people have already said in the media, we will eradicate Hamas. If you know the history of Hamas, you know that Hamas is Palestinian people. If you know the history of Hamas, you know that after they destroyed and annihilated and eradicated the PLO, they came back. Palestinians, Hamas. They are still around the world as whatever you want to call them, but they're Palestinians. And that's the problem that I have with this nation here. They're not for the betterment of our people, and they're not for the betterment of anybody who is against their brothers and sisters who have colonized and taken the land from others. They support them all the time, and we have to recognize that we are not going to get the support from them that we think they owe us. We're going to have to fight for our freedom and liberation.
And with that, I think it's important that we understand and we pay attention to what's going on with this, what's going on in the Gaza Strip, because these are just basically oppressed people who are fighting against the oppressor. And when you look at the people of Palestine, they got a lot to do. They have a lot in common with us, because we're both fighting up against a superpower. Where even though Israel not necessarily looked at as a superpower, they have superpower military capability. And I'm gonna go back to you, Grandmaster Teacher, before we get out of here, because it's about time for us to get out of here.
Okay, so when we look at the situation of terror in terms of the is wagging the dog. Israel is the tail, and the Zionists, who have become some of the richest people in the world, because they're grabbing control of our resources throughout the world, and so that they can be able to influence and keep people in a position where they can commit their terror without any kind of repercussion, because the United States is a big brother of Israel. And so consequently, Biden and the Democratic Republican Party are fascist parties. They're not democratic. They are fascist parties that are trying to do everything they can to eliminate us as a people here and everywhere we are in the world. And so therefore, when we talk about Hamas, we support Hamas. We support Hamas and its struggle to free and liberate the Palestinian people. And we're not like, oh, Hamas they killed these poor Israelis. Them poor Israelis have moved into Palestinian land and created their little kibbutzes, and they should get their kibbutzes ass kicked by the Palestinians in any manner that it can be done. So I have no sympathy. I'm just talking for myself. I have no sympathy for the state of Israel and those Zionists who are controlling the state of Israel. They are a part of the U.S. and European terrorist operations throughout the world.
Definitely. So we just for the audience, for people who are listening, we're probably going to be starting earlier than we usually start. We usually start around 1, but we decided to kind of combine our radio broadcast with our social media broadcast, even though social media broadcast ended about 30 minutes ago. And not the social media, radio broadcast ended about 30 minutes ago. So that means we're going to be starting around 11:30 every day. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. And we got to, work the kinks out of that, of course. But so just for your information, we'll be starting a little earlier because I see people kind of checking in as we are getting ready to get out of the show. So, just let's look forward to that. As our new Black Panther Party in Norfolk, Virginia, we fight with the oppressed and not the oppressed sword. Definitely, I echo those sentiments 100%. And just remember, y'all, if y'all in Idlewild City today, that's Memphis, Tennessee, at 3:00, join us for our Metropolitan Conference at the New African Village at 1225 Valentine Avenue. It's gonna happen between 3:00 and 5:00 p.m. We're gonna be talking about a lot of things that are relevant. We're gonna be talking about the election. First and foremost, that's the reason. But we're not only going to be talking about that, we're going to use that as an opportunity to, kind of talk about the things that we need to talk about, the issues that are relevant to the New African community here in Memphis and wherever we are struggling at. So that'll be a good time for us to get together and, congregate, fellowship, as they like to say, and also put some real solutions into action. That's what it's all about. So before we get up out of here, y'all got any final words y'all want to say to the people before next week? Comrade Kakai.
Free the land. That's it. Just free the land. And stay tuned. You're going to get a lot from us because we're going to get the word out.
Definitely. Let a Grandmaster Teacher use your mic because his mic ain't coming on.
Go ahead, Grandmaster Teacher.
Okay. So we as a people have to understand that we must support all forces that are against imperialism, neo-colonialism, colonialism, all the forces that are exploiting the peoples of the world. And so forward the movement of the people, because it's the people who make history and nobody else.
No doubt. It's the people who make history and nobody else, because literally it's up to us. That's why the propaganda machine is so strong. That's why they put so much money and resources in brainwashing the masses of people and have them believe in ridiculous things and have us thinking backwards, because the actual power is within the people. And if the people are thinking correctly, if the people do not have the mindset that has been created by the oppressor, then the people will naturally rise up and fight against the oppressor.
and fight against oppression, because oppression is anti-humane. It is anti-nature. And it is just natural to fight against it. So we educate ourselves properly so we can recognize who the terrorists really are. And once we recognize the true face of terrorism, not people who are trying to defend themselves against the true terrorists, but we recognize the true face of terrorism, we can band together and we can fight against them, and we can defeat this evil beast, which is the evil empire, imperialist, colonialist, that has really been dominating the entire world. But my name is Brother Prophecy. You've been listening to the Voices of New Afrika. Join us again next week. Hopefully we'll be on with the New African Perspective tomorrow. And join all of our shows. We're going to leave y'all with our battle cry. And that is, free the land, free the land, free the land. And we'll see y'all again next week.
America, full of promises. Time to cash them in. You run from it quick. You never keep your word. I learned from it quick. You keep abusing me. You dumb. Europeans murdered 98% of the indigenous population right here in Turtle Island in order to steal the land. An entire nation of African people were captured and forced into a brutal system of chattel slavery just so they could work and cultivate the land. All wars are fought over land, not over terrorism, not over religion, not even to